Have you had much of an opportunity to see Winnipeg this year?
Yes. I did their game the other night. They're serious, man. Like,
they went into Madison Square Garden last night, win 6-3.
Dogs last night
to move to 15-1. Obviously, the 7-0 on the road. Scheifele 2 goals, Connor 2 goals. The goalie's good.
Greatest start in NHL history.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of wanted to get your sense and take on them.
So we always pick apart teams and go, okay, because of the cap, they're this, or they need more here, or geez, I'd like that number 4 defenseman to not, he should probably be a 6. Like the way they're constructed, like there's no imbalances in their roster. And, I come back to health. Cole Perfetti is a player. It's taken him a little longer to arrive. Okay. Velarde, health was a big problem last year. Nikolai Ehlers' health has been always a knock against him. You get a healthy team, and then you can start to look and go, geez, we got some depth here. I've always said, I'm biased because we played with Pi, and I've known Adam Lowry since he was a kid, and that, like, I think he's the best third line centerman in the league. And he could climb up the lineup, but he's a great leader. He's a bastard to play against, and I say that endearingly. They have depth in every position where you're like, okay, that's a nice third line. That's that fourth line is really serviceable. Boy, that, and I look at it as Winnipeg is not a sexy market, as we all know. So you have to draft and develop and use the CBA to keep your players there. But then all of a sudden last year, it's like, we all are like, Winnipeg's done because Scheifele and Hellebuck, they're out of there. And on the same day, Chevy comes out and goes, yeah, I got these guys committed 8 years. And it like decent money, like Hellebuck at $8 million. Like, it's insane. Or 8, what is it? 8
and a quarter.
Yeah, but it was not a hometown discount, but it wasn't a crazy overpay at all.
It wasn't a disgusting overpay where you're like, I've always said some of these markets, before McDavid was in Edmonton, it was Edmonton, it's Winnipeg, it's Ottawa, it's Carolina, maybe not the sexiest on paper. So it's like you got to do the market tax, add an extra $1 million on if a guy wants to go there as a free agent. But everybody who's there wants to be there. And there's just no weakness. Like, I look at Cheveldayoff being patient with Logan Stanley. And now he's a player. Like, he's a big, long, mean defenseman. And the game I did, it's like goal, fight. I'm like, this guy has really arrived. And I look at his comparables, like, I think he might have a little bit better hands than Carson Soucy, but maybe he's Nicholas Hague from Vegas. Just a guy who's like in that slot and really tough to play against. And Morrissey just has gotten better, and Morrissey knows how to play. And I look at that group, Pionk, Mello, like, just they play hard, they play mean. The goalie makes some saves, and they're like a machine. They just go out there and play. And we'll see. They're going to have a dip at some point. They're going to have some adversity, all of that. But you asked me watching them, man, oh man, like the only game they lost was against the Leafs. And if there was 3 more minutes in that game, they would have tied it up. They might have won it in regulation because they got to 5-4, I think. And then there was an empty net or 2 empty nets or something like that. But it was like, I think the Leafs were up 5-1 because Hellebuck didn't have a good game. And you could tell they were just a little off that night. And then they got their game going as it went along. And the Leafs held on by the end. So I look at Winnipeg, they're a serious, serious team.
They were able to navigate some rough waters. If you go back to when Jacob Trouba wanted out, they held on and they waited. Well, we'll trade you when it's good for us. They got Pionk, among other things, in that deal. And now Pionk's been great for them.
Yeah.
The whole Wheeler, Scheifele, remember Rick Bowness left and crushed them at the end of the year.
Paul Maurice quit. Said the same thing.
Paul Maurice quit. And now Scheifele, they get him re-upped. They get the goaltender re-upped. And then it was the Dubois thing.
Yeah.
Well, that was
they get Velarde and Rasmus Kupari and Velarde. If you watch any amount of the games, he's almost the straw stirrer in the drink for them a lot of nights. Yeah. They have had some tough things dealt to them, situations dealt to them. And credit to Cheveldayoff. I've been critical because it feels like sometimes he sits on his hands and he doesn't get enough done. And maybe you just can't because of the market or whatever. But those were potentially tough scenarios that he, if not hit a home run, they've came out better on the other end of it.
Well, and he spent some currency. Like we had him on our show and I've talked to him, like I played with Chevy in the minors and stuff. You talk to him, like they've spent some currency. Like they went and got Toffoli. They went and got Monahan. Like they added, and it cost them, draft picks and stuff. Like you said, we've gone all in. We've tried to add some currency to our group to let them know. Didn't work out. I didn't love their playoffs. They stunk against Colorado. They just fell apart. The goalie wasn't making saves. Their system wasn't there, and Colorado just turned up the heat and ran him out of the building. But I look at just the sneaky moves. Nemestikov coming back, like Niederreiter, like not the sexiest of names, but really good players, like really efficient players. And I talked about that third line: Niederreiter, Lowry, and Appleton. Like Appleton kind of returns again and just a solid player. But you mentioned like Kupari, Iafallo, like Barron, like just big, speedy, tough to play against. Like I look at this group and I think they've got it all put together. And you mentioned, like, I don't know, something was bad there. Like, I don't know if it was the culture. I don't know if it was certain people. Like, have you guys watched that I don't know what the hell it was called. The Prime thing, the 6 episodes. Yeah. I thought Trouba's was the worst and the weirdest. Like everybody else's, I don't know if you guys would watch it, but go and watch it. Everybody else was like out for dinner with his teammates and kind of, behind the scenes. And Trouba's like out for dinner with like some art dealer, like from New York City. And you're like, well, who's that guy? Like, why is he, this guy and his wife, and the wife's going, I don't even watch hockey. You're like, all right, well, like
are you on the show?
Yeah. And like Trouba, his release, which is kind of cool, he's very artsy. So he actually like paints and does art and body art. And you'll see it in the special. But I thought his was the most unique. It was like there was nothing. If you would have taken the hockey part out of Jacob Trouba, you're like, that's just a person who's in the art district in New York City. Like you had no idea that's the captain of the New York Rangers. It was a very, I thought his piece was so much different than everybody else's. The Forsberg one showed him battling through an injury. And, I like that, seeing behind the scenes, because we don't have access that much as fans anymore, or you want more access. But I thought Trouba's was like way in left field compared to everybody else's.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.